But the problem with all this is that consultants don't operate on the same incentives and logic as civil servants. Consulting firms, since they're private industries, operate on the logic of businesses and profit.
We want people to know how this company affects their lives, how it affects their children, how it affects them, and how it affects their future, and how it impacts one of the worst problems in America today, which is inequality, which is a problem that is really eating at the soul of this country.
There's an old saying that people who can't do, teach, and people that can't teach, consult. Running a company is hard, and no matter how big and successful a business becomes, and no matter how many entrepreneur tags a founder puts in their Twitter bio, there will always be challenges that are unexpected and outside of the capabilities of anybody within the firm. That's where consultants come in. Consultants are supposed to be skilled experts in the narrow field of business that they consult in. For example, if a business wants to introduce a new online payment processing system, but nobody within the company has any experience setting up such a system, a smart manager could employ the help of a consulting firm. That firm might have a team that does nothing but set up payment systems for other companies, and since that's all they do, they are very good at it. If the business hires this firm, the consultants will get everything set up and train someone in the company to keep the system operating after they are finished. This can often be cheaper with much less downtime than trying to train or hire an employee to roll out big projects like this example of a new payment system. Some consultants might not even call themselves consultants depending on what they specialize in. But specialized and experienced consultants like these are not the same group that are causing problems. Those are the management consultants.
Some of the harm that they've done to people around the world, whether in the United States or elsewhere, through their work was very compelling.
The big three management consulting firms, Bain, Boston Consulting Group, and McKinsey & Company, make billions of dollars every year by telling corporate executives and government leaders how to do their own jobs. Consultants can be a very valuable resource if they are giving advice in an area that they have a lot of experience in, or better yet, something that they do over and over again for different businesses employing their services. But senior management challenges are always unique, and these prestigious firms might not know nearly as much as they lead people to believe. Management consulting not only costs businesses and governments billions of dollars every year in direct fees, it could be costing us all billions more in poor business performance and unnecessary layoffs. As bad as this problem is, consulting firms also have a few semi-legal tricks up their sleeves that make sure they are probably not going anywhere anytime soon. But I am getting ahead of myself. Management consultants, like all consultants, are supposed to be brought into a business for a short amount of time to help management fix a problem, launch a big project, or an old favorite, streamline business operations. Management consultants will be given access to the company's operations so that they can observe how the business works, talk to employees, and sometimes even customers. They will use their findings from this investigation to recommend areas of improvement or devise a strategy to achieve goals as easily or as cheaply as possible. Unlike most other consultants, the final product they deliver to a business will not be a completed project, but it will instead be a series of recommendations for managers in the company to follow, usually presented in the form of a slide deck with lots of beautiful looking graphs filled with the data they collected during their investigation. There are 3 reasons this relatively simple process so often goes terribly wrong. The first is that management consultants rarely have any actual experience doing the things they are consulting on. Regular non-management consultants typically move into those roles after a long career of doing what they will be giving advice on. Senior managers in companies are a lot more rare than typical roles, and by the time they have years of experience as a C-suite executive, they are generally looking more towards retirement than starting the next phase of their career as a consultant. This means that the pool of people that can potentially give experience-based advice is small and expensive, which makes it hard to put a team together, but management consulting firms also don't really try either. They like to take a different path. The big 3 firms hire almost exclusively out of universities through graduate programs that top students from prestigious colleges fight very hard to get accepted into. These young graduates will become analysts at these firms and do a bulk of the grunt work on consulting projects under the supervision of a managing director or partner.
Unfortunately, when a lot of these students get hired by McKinsey and start working there, they're disabused of that. They're often working for things that have absolutely nothing to do with these lofty goals.
The managing directors and partners are usually promoted from within, as the big 3 management consulting firms have an up-or-out staffing policy. This means that if after 3 years, junior analysts are not promoted, they are asked to leave. The problem that this creates is that the people doing the bulk of the consulting not only don't have any senior management experience, they often don't have any experience working in a big company at all. Despite this obvious flaw, management consulting firms continue this practice because it has become ingrained in the corporate culture. A partner who has worked their way up from being an analyst might not want to hire someone for their team with too much real-world experience, because they might successfully challenge their expertise. The graduates are also much cheaper to hire. Management consulting is based on billable hours, so analysts are expected to put in long weeks. Average salaries at McKinsey for first-year analysts range from $90,000 to $110,000, which is a lot, but is not that competitive when the expectation is 80-hour weeks with lots of stress and very little job security. It's also lower than what those same graduates could earn if they went into investment banking, private equity, or fintech. The reason they take these consulting jobs over more lucrative alternatives is because of the exit opportunities. Since their job is nothing but making companies run better, workers with management consulting experience become highly demanded for management roles in regular companies once they have a few years of experience. This is the reverse of how it should be, which is consultants getting experience doing the things they are going to give advice on before they give the advice. To make matters worse, the fact that management consultants don't have any experience in the field they are consulting in is the least troubling of the three problems with these companies. So it's time to learn how money works to find out how corporate America got hooked on consulting and why it's here to stay no matter how bad it gets. This week's lesson was sponsored by Aura. A few weeks ago, I was searching the internet for a news article about an achievement one of my parents earned in their early career, only to learn that their personal information appeared on a variety of sites. I learned that this information is so prevalent because data brokers are actively selling her information to robocallers, telemarketers, spammers, and anyone else who wants her information. That's just not right. Aura identifies data brokers that are exposing your information and automatically submits opt-out requests on your behalf. But Aura does much more than that. You probably already know the importance of having multiple strong passwords, using a VPN, installing a robust antivirus system, and updating all of these measures regularly. But who honestly does all of that? Aura is a true all-in-one digital safety tool, providing you with all of these and more. You can have access to all of these features in a family plan for one low monthly price. Whether you're looking for a password manager, finding your personal information on the dark web, using their antivirus protection, or VPN, Aura can do all of that. Protect yourself from data brokers, scammers, and browse the web with peace of mind by using Aura. Visit aura.com/howmanyworks to try 2 weeks free to see how many data brokers are sharing your information and much more. The second problem with management consulting firms is that they will take on assignments no matter how ill-prepared they are to deliver good results in that field. Bain, McKinsey, and Boston Consulting Group do not accept direct liability for any of their recommendations going wrong. The worst that can happen to them is reputational damage, so there is little incentive for profit-share-motivated partners to give up lucrative contracts just because they won't be able to give good advice. The culture has become to oversell their infallible business acumen and then work out what the hell they are doing after they have landed the job. In her book, The Big Con, Rosie Collington, a college professor and business reporter, speaks about how much damage this strategy can do, especially on government contracts. In 2019 and 2020, the British government spent nearly £1 billion, roughly $1.3 billion, on Brexit strategy consulting with these big management consulting firms. Despite the egregious waste of taxpayer money, it's difficult to understand what these consultants were really doing, because nobody had any experience in a situation like Brexit. The firm surveyed lots of businesses and created lots of reports, but didn't add anything that couldn't or shouldn't have been done by elected public servants. The third problem with consulting is that it costs much more than anybody ever expects. The $1.3 billion spent by the British government was not unusual. The French government has also been embroiled in scandals involving overly generous contracts to consulting firms, and at home here in the States, big government projects like healthcare.gov involved more than 55 consulting contractors and subcontractors. That's right. The government hired consultants that then hired their own consultants to consult their consultants on how to consult, all to roll out an online service that still failed. Big companies often have the same problem, where consulting fees end up being a significant cost in the business, with some company managers spending 10% of their operating budget on consultants to tell them how to do their jobs. The direct costs are not even a factor when compared to the indirect costs of relying on consultants. Governments and businesses that consistently hire consultants will prevent their own ability to develop in-house capabilities. If consultants are hired to solve any problem a business or government runs into, then they don't need to hire teams of people internally to deal with those problems. Consultants brought in to improve business operations also have a fondness for reducing headcount wherever possible. There are lots of people in big companies that exist to fix things when they go wrong. If consultants ignore the real role of these people in the company, they can identify easy cost cuts and look like business geniuses. If something does go wrong in the future after the consultants fire the person that was responsible for fixing those problems, then the business can always just hire more consultants. So, with so many problems, high costs, and questionable performance, why do governments and business leaders keep hiring big management consulting firms to help with things they were never meant to help with? There are again 3 big reasons. Reason 1 is that hiring consultants can be really good for the careers of the people that get to do the hiring. The number 1 career move for elected officials after they leave office is into consulting. Senior consultants can earn a lot of money. The average partner salary at Bain & Company is $527,000, with some senior partners earning more than $1 million a year. This is a lot more than politicians make in office, so these jobs are highly coveted. The best way to make sure they get offered these roles is to build relationships with these firms by using their services while in office. This is known as a political corporate revolving door, and so long as they don't directly hire a consulting firm with the understanding that they will get hired themselves after they leave office, it's not corruption. It's one of the only ways that politicians can monetize their position without it being counted as corruption. $1 million a year is enough to tempt almost anyone apart from the other group of people that are regularly choosing to hire management consulting firms. C-suite executives like chief operation officers, chief financial officers, and chief executive officers regularly make $5 million or more every year at public companies. Becoming a management consulting partner would be a downgrade for these people, so they don't hire them just to get a job. But consultants can still help their careers in other ways. Some companies will hire management consulting firms to help them with executive job searches. Finding a good CEO can affect the stock price of a company, so a lot of human resources departments outsource this responsibility to a third party under the instruction of their board of directors. Consulting partners are more likely to hire executives for these key roles that they have worked with in the past, so that they can make recommendations based off first-hand experience. They are also likely to recommend a CEO that has employed their consulting services in the past because they will continue to book billable hours when they get their new job. For the career-driven executive, the solution is simple. Give business to consultants, and the consultants will give jobs to them. The second reason is that a lot of business and political leaders don't know what they are doing. This point is simple enough. A lot of senior positions in companies don't always go to the most deserving people, and consultants can tell them how to do their jobs so they don't get exposed for being unqualified. Reason number 3 is that hiring consultants is the single most effective ass-covering tool that a senior manager can employ. There is an old saying that nobody ever got fired for hiring McKinsey. If an executive is facing a tough decision, hiring a consulting firm to confirm that the decision is a good idea based off their independent research can cover the executive in the scenario where the decision goes badly. Nobody could blame them for not doing enough due diligence, and shareholders can be told it was extenuating market conditions that were the reason for the company's poor performance. These executives will have already made up their minds and will bring in outside consultants to silence critics in the company or on the board. If things go right, they will get all the credit, and if things go wrong, they will just blame the consultants that were paid to agree with them. Consultants will not try to create reports that oppose the vision of the executive responsible for hiring them because they are less likely to be hired again if they do. It's also not their job. Consultants are not paid to make decisions for the company. They are hired to present the research they conducted regarding big decisions. But like a lot of information-dense presentations, it's open to interpretation. Even if the consultants do have a lot of experience in similar projects, and they aren't lying about their ability to work on what they had been hired to, their advice is only worth anything if it changes someone's mind. Now, if you are thinking after all of this that consultants for corporate America are bad, then they have nothing on the consultants that could be threatening our national safety. I am talking about former military generals that are earning millions by going to work for foreign militaries in countries like Saudi Arabia and Libya. Go and watch my video on that to find out how this is possibly legal. A special thanks again to Aura for making it possible for everybody to keep on learning how money works.
Oh my God, you're a junkie!
I need it.